Front wheel drive and rear wheel drive are the most common drivetrain found in a car. Not to say that all wheel drive and four wheel drive vehicles doesn't exist, and I'll make another video for that. Anyway, the drivetrain of a vehicle is one of the most crucial factors for their performance, handling and feel. And so I'll talk about front wheel drive and rear wheel drive vehicles in this video. I'll explain how do they work, what purposes do they serve, and at last I'll tell you their pros and cons. So let's get started. Let's start this with how it works. Well, it's simple. Front wheel drive cars gives the power to the front wheels and rear wheel drive cars gives the power to the rear wheels. This implies despite having a front, rear or even a mid-engine layout. Now you might have already guessed what these drivetrains are supposed to serve and what are their purposes. Then let's start with the most common drivetrain, which is front wheel drive. They are mostly found in econo boxes, which is termed as the most boring types of vehicles in the car community in general. But I don't blame them because econo boxes are not meant to be cool or flashy but affordable to our non-car guy friends. And front wheel drive drivetrain are the most easy drivetrain to manufacture for cheap. Also in general normal people cannot handle rear wheel drive cars mostly. So it's a win-win situation for both the manufacturer and the consumer. Also, I'm not saying that all front wheel drive vehicles are boring. There are some cool front wheel drive cars out there like the Honda Integra Type R, Civic Type R and a Renault Megane RS275 Trophy R. It's long. So front wheel drive cars are affordable, easy to control and cheap to manufacture. And just a side note that almost 90 to 95% of cars in India are front wheel drive because I think it is necessary to avoid accidents because getting a license here is easy and still people cannot handle them. Yup, that Swift is front wheel drive and still he lost control over it, and forget about rear wheel drive vehicles. Anyway, moving on to the purpose of rear wheel drive vehicles, which are I think almost all the rear wheel drive vehicles are meant for having fun, and the fact that the mid-engine and rear engine car's drivetrain needs to be rear wheel drive to reduce complexity and weight. I mean, you must have seen front engine rear wheel drive cars but not rear engine front wheel drive cars. Also, they are known as the best wheel drive, and that also for a purpose. Due to them being rear wheel drive, they are the best drivetrain for autocrossing and track racing because of its balanced weight distribution during weight transfer, which means better cornering capabilities. But that comes with a price, which I'll mention later. Secondly, they are the best because as a car enthusiast, we expect our cars to be fun to drive, and rear wheel drive cars are the best example of this as it is rewarding for even a skilled driver. But I'm not saying that front wheel drive cars are not fun at all. I'm saying in general, rear wheel drive cars are more rewarding than front wheel drive vehicles. Like the Mazda Miata, Lotus Elise, Mazda RX-7, Toyota Supra, the best car, and the list goes on. Now that we are done with their purposes, let's go for their pros and cons. As always, we will start with the pros of front wheel drive vehicles, which are that they are cheap to buy and manufacture because there is less complexity in the car, which gets the job done for non-car enthusiasts. It is better than rear wheel drive vehicles in terms of acceleration because it's better to pull rather than push. They are literally everywhere, which makes it easily available even in India. And at last, it can be a great daily driver. Coming to the cons or disadvantages of this drivetrain, which are that they are mostly found in boring vehicles like the Toyota Prius. They have an issue of torque steer. I mean, it affects all drivetrain to some extent, but it is prevalent in front wheel drive vehicles. It also has an issue of understeer, which is a feeling of a car not turning enough while cornering. And that is because they are not balanced due to its engine and gearbox present in the front of the car, which makes the front of the car heavy, which disturbs the balance while weight transfer. Moving on to the pros of the rear wheel drive vehicles, and I'm sure there are a lot. They are fun to drive, as I said before. They make your car go sideways for however long you want until your tires are toasted or you crash. They are balanced, which means it has an edge while racing or just autocrossing if compared to front wheel drive vehicles. And the fact that they are present in some of the most radical cars ever made, so you must believe it must be good. And at last, they are stupidly rewarding when you snap oversteer and then you are able to get back on track. That's magnificent. Now let's start with the cons of this drivetrain by the last pros which I have mentioned before. Oversteer. This is a huge issue when it comes to unskilled drivers on the public streets. For example, you must have seen those Mustang memes on the internet stating them as crowd killers. It's because our non-car guy friends can afford those muscle cars but cannot handle them because they just spin out. Also, as I mentioned, pulling is better than pushing. Rear wheel drive cars suffer from launching while inputting full throttle from a dead stop, unless your car consists traction control or launch control, which also means that your car is not using its full potential. And the last thing is that they don't have large trunk space due to the drive shaft and differentials at the back. So that's it for me to speak about this two drivetrain. I know that I have missed a lot of things here, but don't blame me. I'm just a stupid 15-year-old teenager who's useless according to my Indian education system. And so, in that anger, I'll tell you a bonus fact about rear wheel drive vehicles. We Indians cannot handle it, even while driving a freaking tractor. Anyway, this is done. If you think that this kid has done enough hard work in this video, please like, share, subscribe and comment. I'll see you next time. Bye.